Is this one of the greatest villains we've ever seen in cinematic history? To be honest with you guys, I'm probably going to get a lot of hate in this video. A lot of people will push me aside as either a troll, an idiot, or a drug addict. Which I am all three of those things, to be fair. However, I am not wrong on this. I will demonstrate to you in this video how Sonic 3, a film that a guy like me has no business watching, how this movie came out of nowhere and unironically gave us, probably, in my opinion, he might be the best villain we've seen in the last decade. A lot of you are about to click off this video. A lot of you are about to click off this video or just laugh it off. Don't. You need to trust me on this. You need to trust in Zaffy. Now, I know what you guys are thinking. This masked idiot probably doesn't even like good movie villains, so who cares what he has to say? Let me tell you about my favorite movie villains, alright? I'm not no scrub. I like Heath Ledger's Joker, okay? I do. I like Mads Mikkelsen's performance as Hannibal Lecter. I like it more than the Anthony Hopkins performance, to be fair. I'm gonna make probably a whole video on Hannibal and why that TV show is one of the greatest of all time. My guy, Christoph Waltz in The King of New York. Okay, he's not a villain technically in this movie. He is. He's a bad guy. He's more of an anti-hero, but still. Bad guy, you know, that type of thing. I even like Lawrence Fishburne's character in King of New York, the henchman, the hitman that works for him. He's so animated and over the top. I love that. And of course, Heisenberg, okay? Bryan Cranston as Walter White. I like good movie villains, guys. I'm not crazy, but I'm just gonna be honest. Sonic 3 has given me a villain that is in those echelons, okay? He is in there. We're gonna discuss this. It needs to be done because, listen, I haven't seen the first two movies. I went into this movie blind as a bat. My friends wanted to see this. I didn't really care to see it, but they brought me along, and I was like, fuck it, whatever. I'm a movie fan. I'm a cinephile. I'll give anything a chance. 2024's last quarter, besides like the crap that Sony keeps putting out in the garbage films here and there, it's been pretty good. Nosferatu, Heretic, Anora, The Substance, Transformers 1, The Wild Robot. It's been a decent run. So, you can imagine my surprise when this movie somehow manages to stand out. And I'm not saying this is an Oscar-worthy film or it's necessarily better than all the movies I just mentioned. I'm not saying that at all. But when a movie like this that's made for kids that shouldn't appeal to someone like me finds a way to stand out, you gotta give it credit. This movie's not special. It doesn't do anything different. It's got decent characters. Sonic isn't even my favorite of the Hedgehogs. And when it comes to this team, the good guy team, it's probably Knuckles. Idris Elba's Knuckles is awesome. I love him. It's got crazy action. This is like Dragon Ball Z. No, it literally is. They throw each other through planets, through moons and shit. They literally even have Sonic and Shadow becoming Super Saiyan versions of themselves. I swear. I don't know if they borrowed stuff from Dragon Ball Z. I don't know anything about the Sonic lore, by the way. I'm coming at this blind. But this is Dragon Ball Z if it was made in a live action. If it was made in a live action movie today, that's what Sonic is for Dragon Ball Z fans, to be honest. Shadow. He's the guy everyone wanted to see. Really good character. He's got depth. He's got an emotional backstory. I've been a fan of Shadow. I don't know anything about Sonic or anything like that, but I had the Shadow 2005 PS2 video game. You guys remember? I don't know if you guys know this, but there was an opening cinematic intro to that where Shadow is literally pulling out a gun and fighting aliens in a city. It's badass. He's fighting them and rock music is playing in the background. Ever since, this is like Sonic and the Punisher combined. I love Shadow. And you know what? They do him right in this movie. I don't know anything about his backstory, but they did a good job in fleshing it out. A child dies. No spoiler alert, but like a child dies. I didn't think a child was going to be killed in any frame of this movie, but they did it. They went there. And Shadow's motivation, he's all about revenge, and you like it. And Keanu Reeves, his like almost terrible voice acting, and you know, Keanu Reeves gets a lot of flack for his acting, but we all love him, so we let it go. But it actually works. It works for this character. It's just like it worked for John Wick after a certain point in time. You just get used to it. It's a very stilted, like, I'm gonna kill them. I'm gonna make them pay. Like, it's almost like he's aware of how silly his voice sounds, and they make it work. And Shadow, it's like an arc of redemption that he has, and it's very predictable. This movie is very predictable on its face, but it's still fun. I enjoy it. I like the characters. Except for them. They need to go. These human characters, they're like, you know when there are like adult actors in a film that's made for kids and they try to be funny and it comes off really cringe? That's exactly what this is. Every time they're on screen, like the film takes a nosedive in quality for me. It's just like they're not bad by any means, but like it's just they don't fit in. They stand out like a sore thumb. They need to go. Now, like I said, nothing groundbreaking here. We've seen this all before. I haven't seen the first two, but from what my friends told me, this is the best of the three easily. Decent, enjoyable watch. And then our guy comes in. The villain performance of a lifetime. This is like something Sony wishes they had a character like this in their movies so that their movies go from meme status to legend status. And they actually make money. And who is that villain? Robotnik, I think that's his name. Eggman from the video games. I believe that's the character Jim Carrey's playing. This dude, when he rolls onto screen, the joy that he brings to everyone's eyes. And I was looking at the audience when we were watching this, and all I'm going to say is, I had a similar experience watching him do his thing as I did Heath Ledger in The Dark Knight. I'm not trolling, okay? Remember how Heath Ledger would steal every scene he was in The Dark Knight? It's not that Dark Knight itself was a bad movie without the Joker, but when the Joker came in, it hit a new level. That's the same thing with this. I'm not trying to compare this movie to The Dark Knight. I'm just saying, when this man walks into screen and starts drumming his fat belly while eating the weirdest, most disgusting burrito you've ever seen, and then Sonic and his team just walk in on him doing this, almost like a parent walking in on their kid jerking off. It's one of the greatest things of all time. Now, I don't know how different his character that he's playing is in the video games or whatever piece of medium he's in. And that character, Eggman, in the video games always reminded me of like Despicable Me. I believe that's like he just imagine that, but an angrier, evil version of that, right? That's what that Eggman reminded me of. But when you take that archetype and you pair it with Jim Carrey's mannerisms, his charisma, his comedy, you get a GOAT villain. And he's not a typical villain either. He's not cliched. There's depth to this dude. This is the greatest villain performance of the last decade. Okay, I'm sorry. Now, he's been defeated in the last two movies. So he's at his lowest point when we start this film. He has nothing left. So he joined Sonic and their team for a large portion of the movie. He's actually allianced with the Hedgehogs to fight an enemy who's like copying all of his like. Basically, his tactics are being replicated by someone, some hidden figure. And he's like, no, there's only one Robotnik. It's me. So he has an ego trip and he decides to side with Sonic. And we get comedy. Some of the most iconic lines you've ever seen are in this, okay? This is how you start. This is what he looks like when you start the film. He's fat, moping around. He has great lines. My appearance and personality make me undesirable to virtually all genders. Hedgehog, where are you? I wasn't finished trauma dumping. Like, he's saying all these things, and he's saying them in the way Jim Carrey would say them, and it makes me burst out laughing. This movie did not make me laugh prior to Jim Carrey. They tried. Sonic was joking around. Those cringe-ass parents of his are joking around. Everyone's joking around this film. Nothing made me laugh. Then Jim Carrey, everything this man did made me laugh. Also, sometimes some of his line delivery reminds me of Deadpool. There's literally a line where he mentions hate watching Green Lantern. And I'm like, this is something Wade Wilson would say in an R-rated Deadpool movie. Also, look at this dude. This guy's got aura. You can't tell me a dude... look at that, man. He's got aura. He has an assistant that he treats like dog shit. And it's... You know when you have that villain who's like... petting like a white cat, and they have that one servant of theirs that they treat like shit, and it's sad, but it's also funny. That's the relationship. He literally is fat as fuck, so he can't fit into a suit. So he tears, while his assistant is like helping him, he tears a piece of the assistant's dress shirt off to use to fit the suit, to create more surface area around the fucking stomach. He outshines every other villain. There is one villain that we're going to get to, but Jessica Jones is in this, fine-ass Kristen Ritter. And she doesn't really have much to do. You know why? Because Jim Carrey, when he's on screen, even when he's on screen with her, she's outshined. She's hopelessly outshined. It's not even her fault. It's not even her fault. And like I said, he's not this cliche, I want the world to end type villain. No. That's this guy. The grandpa. He is actually put in here to show you how much depth Jim Carrey as a villain has. Now, when this grandpa, who is basically Jim Carrey playing the same character, when he came in, I was worried. Too much Jim Carrey, two Jim Carreys, this might ramp up the ridiculousness of this movie to the point where it gets annoying. You know, we see that with Will Ferrell movies where it just gets too much, right? I thought that's what we were going to get. And at times, we break that threshold, and I thought this character would decline because of this. He'd just get too sappy and emotional, and all the aura, all the charisma and the funniness would just die down, and we were gonna get like a sappy sad thing, you know. So this relationship is similar to Guardians of the Galaxy, where Peter Quill meets his father Ego, and they're doing like catch, and they're doing all the things that Peter never got to do with his dad, and it was really cheesy in the Guardians 2 movie. I think this kind of almost low-key at times does it better. Jim Carrey dances with himself. While avoiding a laser room, they're dancing through it. And they're like throwing each other into the air, and they're on each other's hips and stuff. And it's fucking hilarious. I'm like, and this was Jim Carrey's idea. Is my mic still on? This was Jim Carrey's idea too, apparently. He's like, we must put this scene in the movie. It's integral to the plot. He said that. He wanted this. This does nothing for the story. It's just there because no other movie is doing this type of shit. And they're not the same character either. I thought they were just going to be the same, which they talk the same, they look the same, but this character is just like an older, unhinged version of Jim Carrey's character without any morals whatsoever. And it's great because when you actually see them collide, it's a similar thing to Peter Quill and Ego. It really is. But this is way funnier. Because when the true plan is revealed, the grandpa wants to destroy the world. And he says, we're going to destroy the world and everyone will die, including us. Then when you see Jim Carrey's reaction, he's like, what? Any logical villain who has a brain with common sense would say the same thing. You know what, that typical cliche villain we used to get in movies where they wanted to nuke the whole world to prove a point, even though it would destroy everyone, including themselves, right? It didn't make sense. Jim Carrey's reaction to that is everything. It's everything because it shows how his villain is. He's not actually like a crazy schizo cliche villain, a cat purring James Bond villain. No, he's just a real dude who didn't get any parents, didn't have a happy life. But he sees the strings and he's like, "What the fuck are you talking about, dude? We can't just kill everyone, including ourselves. That's stupid." So they have a final fight. Now, keep in mind, Jim Carrey didn't want to return to movies. He said, "I'm only returning if the script is groundbreaking, earth-shattering." This is the movie he returns to. He's getting spanked on the ass by his grandfather with a nano hand. Made of nanites. That's the movie we get. Meanwhile, they're fighting and doing the stupidest... This is one of the dumbest fight scenes. It's so funny. They're using nanites to slap each other's asses and just fight. Meanwhile, we have these two having a Dragon Ball Z battle across planets. And this is not even as fun as a Jim Carrey fight. This is how much Jim Carrey elevates this movie. A Dragon Ball Z fight's awesome, but it's nowhere near as funny as what's happening there. We enjoyed the Jim Carrey fight more. And, to be honest, this is kind of dark. Because his grandfather tries to kill him and then nuke the whole world, and then Jim Carrey has to kill his own grandfather, and he zaps him out of existence too. Disintegrates him. It's funny as fuck, but it's also pretty dark, low-key. This is a dark movie. A child dies. We got a homicidal maniac who's trying to holocaust the world and kill his own grandson, and the grandson has to kill him. And we got a hedgehog who wants to nuke the whole world too. Like, it's pretty dark stuff we're dealing with, guys. So, we don't deserve this performance. Jim Carrey's character, spoiler alert, he apparently sacrifices himself at the end of this movie to stop what's happening that his grandfather has put into motion, and he dies. Jim Carrey, this franchise will make millions. We need you back. Sonic is good, but they need you. We don't deserve you. And you could say, Jim Carrey, well, this is going to get old if he keeps doing it. No! He's been doing this for 3 movies, and this was the best one. Apparently. We don't deserve you, Jim Carrey. Come back. This is one of the greatest villains in the last 10 years. You want to know another good villain / anti-hero character in a completely different tonal movie? Watch my video on Law Abiding Citizen here.